Hello and welcome to CP340, Network and Data Security Lesson Number 3. Identify security risks in the development and maintenance of program code. Today we're going to discuss identifying components of physical security, outline core security principles, and identify the need for server protection. Identify security risks in the development and maintenance of program code. SQL injection attacks are simply when data is sent to any form of code interpreter that can be run as a command or in the case of a database. A query. The idea is that the data fools the interpreter into either handing over data that the attacker wants, or it executes commands that may be hostile in the environment. Broken authentication and session management vulnerabilities allow anonymous attacks aimed at attempting to steal valuable data, especially personally identifiable information. Cross-site scripting, XSS attacks. Cross-site scripting, often shortened as XSS, attempts to trick a browser into accepting data that isn't from a trusted source. Applications that allow user input but don't have control over output are highly vulnerable to XSS. Insecure direct object references. Insecure direct object references occur when authentication isn't properly executed. If an application is vulnerable, malicious users may be able to gain administrative access to the application. Security misconfiguration. When security processes and practices aren't correctly followed or implemented, security misconfigurations can easily be used by attackers to detect weak areas that would allow them to access privileged data. Sensitive data exposure. When security controls like SSL and HTTPS are not properly implemented, data can be leaked or stolen through a sensitive data exposure vulnerability. Missing function-level access control. This risk is posed when web applications don't correctly verify function-level access rights before making available functionality that shouldn't be granted. Cross-site request forgery attacks, CSRF. Cross-site request forgery attacks, often shortened to CSRF, allow the attacker to forge an HTTP request from the victim and may include data such as cookies or authentication information. Using components with known vulnerabilities. Components, especially libraries and frameworks derived from the open source community, should never be used when there are known vulnerabilities in the code. Invalidated redirects and forwards can be used with a bit of social engineering to mimic an already existing site and trick visitors into downloading malware or giving up personally identifiable information. Identify components of physical security. When it comes to IT security, physical security is the foundation for overall strategy. Lock the server room. Even before you lock down the servers, in fact, before you even turn them on for the first time, you should ensure that there are good locks on the server room door. Of course, the best lock in the world does no good if it isn't used, so you also need policies requiring that those doors be locked anytime the room is unoccupied, and the policies should set out who has the key or key code to get in. Set up surveillance. Locking the door to the server room is a good first step, but someone could break in, or someone who has authorized access could misuse that authority. You need a way to know who goes in and out and when. A logbook for signing in and out is the most elemental way to accomplish this, but it has a lot of drawbacks. A person with malicious intent is likely just to bypass it. Make sure the most vulnerable devices are in that locked room. Remember, it's not just the servers you have to worry about. A hacker can plug a laptop into a hub and use sniffer software to capture data traveling across the network. Make sure that as many of your network devices as possible are in that locked room, or if they need to be in a different area, in a locked closet elsewhere in the building. Use rack mount servers. Rack mount servers not only take up less server room real estate, they are also easier to secure. Although smaller and arguably lighter than some tower systems, they can easily be locked into closed racks that, once loaded with several servers, can then be bolted to the floor, making the entire package almost impossible to move, much less to steal. Don't forget the workstations. Hackers can use any unsecured computer that's connected to the network to access or delete information that's important to your business. Workstations at unoccupied desks or in empty offices, such as those used by employees who are on vacation or have left the company and not yet been replaced, or at locations easily accessible to outsiders, such as the front receptionist's desk, are particularly vulnerable. Keep intruders from opening the case. Both servers and workstations should be protected from thieves who can open the case and grab the hard drive. It's much easier to make off with a hard disk in your pocket than to carry a full tower off the premises. Many computers come with case locks to prevent opening the case without a key. Protect the portables. Laptops and handheld computers pose special physical security risks. A thief can easily steal the entire computer, including any data stored on its disk, as well as network login passwords that may be saved. If employees use laptops at their desks, they should take them with them when they leave or secure them to a permanent fixture with a cable lock, such as one at PC Guardian. Pack up the backpacks. Backpacking up important data is an essential element in disaster recovery. But don't forget that the information on those backup tapes or disks can be stolen and used by someone outside the company. Many IT administrators keep the backups next to the server in the server room. They should be locked in a drawer or safe at the very least. Ideally, a set of backups should be kept off-site, and you must take care to ensure that they are secured in that off-site location. Disable the drives. If you don't want employees copying company information to removable media, you can disable or remove floppy drives, USB ports, and other means of connecting external drives. Simply disconnecting the cables may not deter technically savvy workers. Some organizations go so far as to fill ports with glue or other substances to permanently prevent their use, although there are software mechanisms that disallow it. Disk locks, such as the one at securitykit.com, can be inserted into floppy drives on those computers that still have them to lock out their diskettes. Protect your printers. You might not think about printers posing a security risk, but many of today's printers store document contents in their own onboard memories. If a hacker steals the printer and accesses that memory, he or she may be able to make copies of recently printed documents. Printers, like servers and workstations that store important information, should be located in secure locations and bolted down so nobody can walk off with them. Outline core security principles. There are many best practices in IT security that are specific to certain industries or businesses, but some apply broadly. Balance protection with utility. Rather than trying to protect against all kinds of threats, most IT departments focus on insulating the most vital systems first and then finding acceptable ways to protect the rest without making them useless. Some of the lower priority systems may be candidates for automated analysis, so that the most important systems remain the focus. Split up the users and resources. For an information security system to work, it must know who is allowed to see and do particular things. Someone in accounting, for example, doesn't need to see all the names in a client database, but they might need to see the figures coming out of sales. Assign minimum privileges. An individual should be assigned the minimum privileges needed to carry out his or her responsibilities. If a person's responsibilities change, so will the privileges. Assigning minimum privileges reduces the chance that Joe from design will walk out the door with all the marketing data. Use independent defenses. This is a military principle as much as an IT security one. Using one really good defense, such as authentication protocols, is only good until someone breaches it. When several independent defenses are employed, an attacker must use several different strategies to get through them. Plan for failure. Planning for failure will help minimize its actual consequences should it occur. Having backup systems in place beforehand allows the IT department to constantly monitor security measures and react quickly to a breach. Record. Ideally, a security system will never be breached, but when a security breach does take place, the event should be recorded. In fact, IT staff often record as much as they can, even when a breach isn't happening. Run frequent tests. Hackers are constantly improving their craft, which means information security must evolve to keep up. IT professionals run tests, conduct risk assessments, reread the disaster recovery plan, check the business continuity plan in case of attack, and then do it all over again. Identify the need for server protection. Server security is important for any organization that has a physical or virtual web server connected to the internet. It requires a layered defense and is especially important for organizations with customer-facing websites. Separate servers should be used for internal and external facing applications, and servers for external facing applications should be hosted on containerized service network to prevent an attacker from exploiting a vulnerability to gain access to sensitive internal information. Thank you for viewing my video. I hope you found it educational.